Hello everyone, and welcome to this first ever Age of Alchemy battle report. Today we will be playing a short 75 points game between the Council of the Cold Night and the Cleansers of the World. On the Council of the Cold Night side we have an Alchemist with basic weapon. We have 4 Mercenaries with 2 with basic weapon and 2 with basic weapon and shield. Last but not least we have a Marksperson who has a bow and dagger. For the Cleansers of the World, we have an Alchemist with basic weapon, Cultist with basic weapon, another Cultist with bludgeon, a third Cultist with a pair of basic weapons, a Brawler, and again, last but not least, a Marksperson with crossbow and dagger. So that is both players now deployed. In the case of this story, the Alchemist here from the Council of the Cold Night and this group of city militia are hunting down this Alchemist from the Cleansers of the World and his small band of fighters that are with him. For the concoctions today, we are going to play with one each of the concoctions available to the groups. In the case of this here, this is the Firewall for the Cleansers of the World. For the Council of the Cold Night, we also have one of the 5 concoctions available to them. This here is a marker for the Ice Wall and for the Frost Trap. The scenario we're going to play today is Vendetta. In this one, the Alchemists are the targets. We're going to play for a full 6 turns. If at the end of that 6th turn, one player has removed the other player's Alchemist while theirs remains on the table, they have won. If both Alchemists are still on the table, we will count the number of wounds remaining, and the one with the most wounds remaining will win. In the case of both Alchemists being removed from the table, it will be a draw. For the first turn, we are going to roll for initiative. I roll a 5, my opponent rolls a 4, so I'll be going first, and they will get 1 reaction token. Okay, so that's the end of the movement phase. We have had no reactions. In this case, I have moved my Alchemist, my Brawler, and my Cultist with bludgeon up on the left side here. My Marksperson with crossbow and dagger has stayed at the back, and then these 2 cultists have gone round on this side here. That's the end of the first turn movement phase. My Alchemist, Cultist and Cultist have both moved up on this side. My Marksperson with dagger has moved up to... no, actually he has stayed still. And then my 2 cultists have moved up on this flank here. As for the Council of the Cold Night, we have 3 mercenaries that are coming round on this flank. This mercenary here has stayed close to that house. This Marksperson and this Alchemist have moved up on this flank. Now we're in the shooting phase. I'm going to start with my Alchemy. I'm going to use my number 6, which is the Purifier. I'm going to place it using that number 1 pip there. First of all, I need to roll to see if it goes off, which it will on a 2+. It does. So all models within 5 inches of that point will take a damage to hit, which is none of my models, but all 3 of these ones here. So I'm now going to roll to wound each one. For this mercenary here, on its damage 2 to his resistance 3, so I'll need a 5 or 6 to get a wound. So for him, he takes a wound. For her, she doesn't. And for her, she does as well. So I will put 1 wound counter on him and 1 wound counter on her. This Marksperson here is going to fire his crossbow all the way over here at this guy. Oh, and he's going to react. Brilliant. Okay, let's see where he goes with his 3-inch move. And he goes and hides in the building. However, I'm going to line of sight this. I can still see him, but he is getting the benefit of hard cover. As we can see, the Marksperson's crossbow is just within 18 inches of where that mercenary has landed. So I am still in short range. So to hit him, it would be a 3 normally, but he has hard cover. So that takes me down to a 5. And let's see if I can roll to hit him. I can't, however, being a Marksperson, I can re-roll that 1 to hit. And I still don't. Oh well, you try. My opponent's Marksperson is going to fire at this cultist here, who is in the open. First of all, we shall see if he is within range. He's 17 inches away, so he is within range, but in this case, the penalties would be long range and movement. It is a clear line of sight to that model though, so they would be -2 hitting on a 5. Unfortunately, no hit there. So my opponent has decided that their Alchemist is going to throw their number 4 ice wall. First, they're going to pick their point within 12, and they've decided they want to put it here. Okay, perfect. And then roll to see if it goes off on a 2+. It does, so they're going to replace that dice, 1 second, with the ice wall. Okay, so that's the end of the shooting for turn 1. In the combat phase for turn 1, it appears that nobody is within 6-inch range, so there is no combats to declare. As such, we are going to go on to turn 2. So this is the initiative phase at the start of turn 2. My opponent has rolled a 4. I rolled a 2, so my opponent will be going first, but I will be getting 2 reaction tokens this turn. My opponent had decided to move this model, and my Marksperson over here is going to react with a snapshot. First of all, going to measure to see they are within 18, so it is short range. And then if I twist this over, going to measure to see that they are not getting the benefit of cover either. So it's a perfect chance to react. Going to roll to hit. And oh, how we love 2s. No, that's a miss. Okay, so after that disastrous display, let's move on with the rest of the movement phase. We can see at the end of the move phase that the mercenary has moved over here, another mercenary over here, and another mercenary over here. As a counter to that, my brawler has moved here, my alchemist has moved here, and my cultist has moved up facing off against this mercenary here. As for this side, we can see the mercenary and Marksperson have moved up here, and the alchemist has moved up into this building. From my side, the cultist and other cultist are moving up to try and get into combat with these two. Then finally, we have this poor Marksperson sat at the back. He's reacted, so he is going nowhere. First of all, my opponent's alchemist is going to try and use a frost trap, and I'm guessing they're going to place it about here. That's within 12 inches. And then they're going to roll to see if it goes off. They are looking for a 2+. Hey, it does. So they are now going to place the frost trap. They have asked me to put it, 1 second, we'll shift everything out the way, and place it there like so. Okay, that's the frost trap used. Next, my opponent is going to have their Marksperson fire at my cultist who is stuck in the frost trap. Before they do, however, I am going to react. Now, the frost trap has 2 rules. 1, it is rough ground, so my 3 inches is going to instead become 1 inch to get out of it, which would be 2 inches, and then a further inch will just get me behind here. However, I have walked through it, so my opponent is first of all going to roll a dice to see if I take a wound. On a 5+, I do. No, close, but no. So in that case, they're going to continue on with their shooting. So this Marksperson is going to fire at my cultist. They are within 4 inches, so they're in super short range. However, they have moved, and I am behind soft cover. So there will be a -2 with a +1, leaving a -1 overall. So they will hit me on a 4. Well, once again, that lovely number 2. So for my shooting phase, my Marksperson here is going to fire at this mercenary here. Let's measure range. So I can see that it is 12 inches. So it's definitely within short range. However, I have reacted, and because of the crossbow special rule, this will be a -2 rather than a -1. So I will hit them on a 5. Nope, that's not good. So the shot misses completely. So my Alchemist is going to use concoction number 5, which is Path of the Righteous Flame. They are going to now measure a thin line, which is 8 inches. And then I can get it so that it will pass over my opponent's models, but will not pass over my Brawler. So, perfect. I now get to roll a damage 4 hit against each of these models. So for this one, it'll be damage 4 against resistance 3. That's a fail. In the case of this model, it would also be damage 4 against resistance 3. In that case, it would be +1, so it would go up to a 4 and be a wound. However, my opponent has a shield, so they're going to try and ignore that on a 5 or 6. Which they don't do, so we will give them a 2nd wound. In this case, my opponent has decided that their mercenary with a sword and shield is going to charge into my cultist. They can do that quite easily within 6 inches and without going into the frost trap. So they have one weapon, which is a sword, so they get to roll 1 dice, hitting on a 4 because that's their combat skill. However, they are a mercenary, so they're going to re-roll that one with the basic weapon. And they get a hit. Let's see if they can repeat that, get a critical wound. It is damage 3 with the sword against resistance 3. It's a 1 again. So I'm going to attack back with my cultist, who will be hitting on a 4 as well, and gets a 3. That means he has lost this round of combat, and I am now going to try and roll to disengage. 4. So as you can see, I have been successful, and I'm going to move my full 2 inches and go and get right back in that corner there. My opponent's then going to roll a dice and see how far they get to move. 6. Ooh, okay, fair enough. I think I know where they're going to go and hide. Okay, so this mercenary here is going to charge into my Alchemist. They are easily within 6 inches, so I'm just going to charge straight into them. And roll again with 1 basic weapon, so they get 1 attack. Ooh, that's not good. I'm going to try and retaliate with my Alchemist and his basic weapon. He'll be hitting on a 3, however. So he hits, and then let's see if he can get a wound. Damage 3 against resistance 3. That's a 2, so no wounds there, which means I have lost the combat, and my Alchemist is going to try and run away on a 2+. Ooh, that means a free round of combat from the mercenary. Let's see what she can get. That's a hit. Roll again, see if we can get a wound out of that. And no wound. I'm going to try and run away. That's really not good. Try again. And mercenary, so re-roll that number. That's a hit. Roll again, see if we can get a wound. Ooh, it's close. It's tense. Yeah, finally I decide to leave. So I'm going to go inch that way. I'm just going to go the full 2 inches straight back. Don't we have a choice there? And my opponent gets to go 4 inches of their choosing. I think they're probably going to try and come around and scare me. So they're looking here and then here, I'm guessing. Perfect. There we go. Okay, next my opponent has decided that this mercenary is actually going to charge down here, along here, and can just, we've already measured, just make it into range of my Alchemist. So around they go. They will get just there, tip to tip. So mercenary's going to attack again. 1 sword, 1 basic weapon. That's a hit. Let's see if they can get a wound. Ooh, we're going to have to re-roll that as much as we want it to be a critical. Okay, that is a wound on my Alchemist. I'm going to fight back with my 1 attack, hitting on a 3. No, I'm going to try and run away on a 2+ with my intelligence. Thankfully this time I do, and I am going to go here with my 1 wound. My opponent's going to roll and see where they get to go. 2 inches, so they are going to come and get me here. So over here, my opponent originally was thinking about charging into my Brawler. However, they've realised that if they do, it will actually allow the Brawler, whether they fall back or roll for their extra movement, it will allow them to come back to the centre of the table. So they're going to stay there and be bait for the Brawler. So now it's my combat phase. I am going to have the Brawler charge straight into the Mercenary over here. Now, the Brawler has a pair of fists, so he gets 2 attacks, and he hits on 3s with his combat skill. 2 hits. If either of these are a 5 or 6, because it's damage 2 against resistance 3, if it's a 5 or 6, I will get a wound. So that's 1 wound. However, my opponent does have a shield, so on a 5 or 6, they can ignore that fatal wound. And they don't, so the Mercenary is removed from play. Take their wound counter, and then I'm going to roll my d6 and see how far I get to go. A 2, so that's not terrible. We'll use that to go 2 inches that way. So after that spectacular display by the Brawler, my Cultist here is going to turn around and he is going to declare this Mercenary as a charge by going this way and then this way, so he does not go within an inch of her, and then he's going to just shift the wound marker out the way. He's going to use his Bludgeon, which is 1 attack. He'll be hitting on a 4, that is his combat skill. Ooh, that's a miss. So the Mercenary is going to retaliate with her 1 attack, hitting on a 4. Also a miss. So on a 3 or more for her intelligence, she will disengage. And she does. So in this instance, she would pretty much need to disengage this way over here. Whereas I will roll my dice and get a 2. So I'm going to go 2 inches back this way. Okay, so in this case, rather counterintuitively, my Alchemist is going to charge into this Mercenary over here. First of all, let's see if he can hit with his basic weapon, hitting on a 3. And he doesn't, so the Mercenary is going to attack back, hitting on a 4 with their basic weapon. And also neither do they. So they're going to roll to see if they can disengage on a 3+. They do, so they are going to move 2 inches back, which in this case would be 2 inches straight back. My Alchemist is going to go 1 inch, so he is going to go that way. Okay, so in this case, my Cultist is going to try and see if he can charge this Marksperson while avoiding the Frost Trap. So he is going to go 3 inches, will get him there, and then another 2 inches will get him there without getting near the Alchemist or the Mercenary. He's going to make 1 attack with his basic weapon Axe. He does roll a 1, however, as he is a Cultist and charged, he can re-roll that. Not into the number he needs, though. My opponent's going to attack back with their dagger-armed Marksperson, and no hit. They, however, do have an intelligence of 2, so it's easy for them to run away, which they do. They're going to back away, which will be just into the corner a little bit. Yep. And then I'm going to roll to see how far I can move, which is a 4. However, I am kind of blockaded in by these models, so I'm actually going to use that to go back where I was. Finally, we're going to end this combat phase with my Cultist over here with 2 basic weapons, trying to charge into the Alchemist. Now, he's going to have to go through the Frost Trap. Those 2 inches there will end up being 4 inches to get to there. And then with the last 2 inches, he can just get into base contact with that window on which the Alchemist is on the other side of. However, first my opponent is going to roll a dice. On a 5 or 6, he takes a wound for crossing the Frost Trap. He does, so I will mark the Cultist with a wound, and then we will start the combat. So first of all, I have 2 basic weapons. We'll see if I can hit with both on a, looking for a 4+. I am a cultist who did charge, which means I can re-roll this one. And that is 2 hits. So let's see if I can translate these into wounds from damage 3 against resistance 3. So looking for 4s, 5s, and criticals and 6s. So that is a single wound on the Alchemist. Now the Alchemist is going to fight back. Even if I was able to remove her in 1 round of attacks, which with 2 basic weapons I could, as we're fighting over an obstacle, we go at the same time. So the Alchemist is still going to roll to attack me here, hitting on a 3, and that's unfortunate. So they're going to try and see if they can run away, which they do, and they're going to back away into the building the full 2 inches, which would take them to there, because I am going to use the fighting over an obstacle and winning section rule to jump into the building and join them. So that's the end of a rather interesting combat phase where we saw a selection of different rules in play. That is also the end of turn 2. Stick with us as we move into turn 3. So at the start of turn 3, we start with the initiative phase. I get a 2, my opponent gets a 6. So I will be going second with my 2 reaction tokens. My opponent has decided they're going to move this model, but before they go anywhere, my Marksperson has been given a reaction token and is going to shoot them right now before they move. The Marksperson is within 4 inches, hasn't moved, and they will not be getting the benefit of cover on this model, so it is going to be a 2 to hit. Yeah, we'll say that's a 6. So that is a hit. The crossbow is damage 4 against resistance 3, so I'm getting a +1 to this roll. And that is not enough to get a wound. So at the end of the movement phase, we can see that my Marksperson here has reacted. The Mercenaries with basic weapons over here have moved up. The Cultist with bludgeon has moved up against this wall. The Alchemist has hopped over the wall. The Brawler over here has moved himself up around the back of the house. My Cultist has hopped over this way to try and get a charge in on that Marksperson. This Mercenary has moved up. This Marksperson has actually stayed still. And then finally, my Cultist and this Alchemist have just sort of moved around within the house. The Alchemist popping around here to try and get out the way of the Cultist. So in the start of the shooting phase, my opponent's Alchemist here is going to use a number 6, which is Solidify. It only has a range of 3 inches, but as we can see, it is more than enough to get the Cultist. So my opponent's going to roll, and on a 3+, it will go off. And it doesn't, unfortunately, so there goes that plan. So my opponent's Marksperson is about to fire at my Cultist, but before they do, I am going to use my second reaction, and I'm going to move them 3 inches, which I can get them around here like so, thus getting them hard cover. They would normally need a 3. I am definitely within 4 inches, so it would go down to a 2, but I have the benefit of heavy or hard cover, so I would be getting +2 to that to make it a 4. Just not enough. Oh well. So for my shooting phase, I am going to have my Alchemist throw his number 4 firewall back here. And we're going to place it like so. So I'm going to roll to see if it goes off, which it does on a 2+. It does. So I will put a firewall just there. So it fits across that gap there, deterring these 2 mercenaries from trying to charge into my Cultist. And then to round off the shooting phase, my crossbow is going to, or my Marksperson with a crossbow, is going to fire into this mercenary over here. He has reacted, and because the crossbow special rule, that'll be a -2 penalty. He is not in very short range, but he is in less than half range. So I will need a 5 to hit. And no. So my opponent's Alchemist is going to charge my Cultist through the doorway. Just going to slip on up there and get into base. Okay, so they have 1 attack with a sword, hitting on a 3. Which it does, and then rolling a damage 3 against resistance 3 to wound. They don't wound me. It's not so good for the Alchemist. So my Cultist is going to fight back with his 2 basic weapons. He hits once. I'm going to try again, see if we can get a wound. It is a wound, so the Alchemist would take away that 1 and replace it with a 2. Then, as the Alchemist has lost the combat, I'm going to see if she can run away on a 1. Oh, well, not on a 1, on a 2, that is absolutely fine. So she's going to back away 2 inches. And then I'll roll for my Cultist, who is getting a 3. So he is going to use that to... He's actually just going to stay there so he can charge her later in his phase. So, my opponent is going to have their Mercenary with a sword and shield charge into my Alchemist. On they go. And then they're going to roll to attack with their sword. So 1 attack hitting on a 4. Ooh, no. I'm going to retaliate with my Mercenary, hitting on a 3. Well, he tried. And also that was my Alchemist trying, not my Mercenary. So, let's see if I can run away. I can, thankfully. So I'm going to use that to pop myself 2 inches that way and take my wound with me. My opponent's going to see where they go. 4, okay. It's up to them where they go, back away or come closer. And there we go, that is the Mercenary shifted back to there. So my opponent's Mercenary here, with the basic weapon, is going to charge into this Cultist with the bludgeon. They are going to go through the firewall. It is open ground, but they will take a damage 3 hit for passing through it. So they're going to go up here, like so. First thing I'm going to do is roll to see if they take any damage from the firewall. Try again. No, they don't. They're okay. So they're going to have the Mercenary attack with the basic weapon into the Cultist, hitting on a 4. No, and I'm going to have my Cultist fight back. Ooh, and he hits. That is a bludgeon, so it's +1. So that makes him damage 3 against resistance 4. So +1 to this roll. Rolls a 4, which becomes a 5. It is only a single wound, but it is still a wound. My opponent is now going to try and roll to see if they can disengage on a 3+. They can. So they're going to see where they go, back against that wall. And then I am going to roll my dice to see how far I get to move. 6. So with that, I'm actually going to hop this for 3. And then I'm going to go 3 inches forward as well and end up there. In a desperate act, the Marksperson here is going to hop this wall and charge into this Cultist to try and push them away from the Alchemist. So they're going to hop over the wall for 3, turn around, and they're within 1.5 inches to make the charge. So the Marksperson has 1 attack with their dagger, hitting on a 4, which they do. They will need a 5 or 6, however, to get a wound because they are damage 2 with the dagger. Ooh, and they do. That puts him up to 2 wounds instead of 1. This is not good. So my Cultist is going to fight back with his 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, neither of which hit. So he is going to have to roll a 3 or more to run away, which he doesn't. Ooh. Okay, so the Marksperson on a 4 is going to hit, and on a 5-6 he's going to wound. Oh, so close. So I'll roll to see if I run away, which I now do. So I'm going to have to back up into this window over here. So I'm still threatening the Alchemist. Ooh, and it's 4 inches. So after much deliberation, my opponent has decided that they're going to move this guy 1/2 inch to there and hop over the wall for 3. Not to stop the Cultist, but to face down this Cultist over here instead and stop him getting to the Alchemist. We're going to start off my half of the combat phase by jumping over that window with this cultist and charging into the Alchemist. Just going to hop over like so and pop there into base-to-base contact, keeping away from the Marksperson. So I have my 2 attacks, which will be looking for 4s, re-rolling 1s because I charged. Ooh, and that's a double hit. So we're looking at damage 3 for the cultist, resistance 3 for the alchemist. She only takes 1 wound, so alchemists have 4 wounds rather than 3, so she'll survive on a single wound. Now to see if she can hit me back on a 3. Yes, and see if she can wound me back on a 4, 5 or 6. No, just 1 shy, so she's going to have to run away on a 2+. And that is not how you run away from combat. So, my cultist is going to give it another shot. One of his attacks hits, I can't re-roll that one, it's not a 1. And he is going to see if he can get a wound on a 50-50. This might be the end of the alchemist. Oh, and it's not, she's got to run away on a 2. I think I might have to roll my dice for my opponent at this point, but I'm going to try again, 3rd time's the charm. Both hit on double 6s again. Oh, that would be 3 wounds with a critical and a regular, but I don't think it matters at this point. The Alchemist is gone. And because the Alchemist has been removed from play, also so is the remaining alchemic concoctions themselves. Ooh. Now I'm going to roll to see where my cultist goes. With 3 inches, he is going to go here and just going to stay there. Actually, yeah, he's going to go there and he's going to threaten the Marksperson a little bit. My cultist is going to now charge into this Marksperson. He's easily within range. He's going to hop in there and he's going to have 1 attack with his basic weapon hitting on a 4, which he does. Yeah, it's not cocked. And he's going to try and see if he can get a wound as well. He gets a single wound on the Marksperson. However, Marksperson is going to retaliate, 1 attack, hitting on a 4, which he doesn't, so he's got to try and run away on a 2, which he does. Unfortunately, due to the fact that there are quite a few models around him, the best he can do is run away to there. So that he is an inch away from this guy here. Then take his wound with him. Then I'm going to roll to see where my cultist goes. He goes 5 inches and he is going to use that to actually go back where he was. Go and stand over there. Once again, we have another charge. The cultist here is going to charge into this mercenary. He's going to charge like so, just straight into him. 1 attack, hitting on a 4 with that bludgeon. So he hits. Keep rolling them 6s. He is going to see if he can wound a damage 4 with a bludgeon against resistance 3 for the mercenary. So he gets a regular wound. That will go up to a 5, but it is only a regular wound. However, he does have a chance of saving on a 5 or 6 with that shield. Yeah, I'm going to accept that. That is a 6, and that is enough for the mercenary to ignore the wound completely. So he's going to fight back. 1 attack, hitting on a 4 with his basic weapon. He is a mercenary, so he can re-roll that 1. And he hits. Roll again, see if he can wound. And he can. Oh, this is not good. Well, I say it's not good. My alchemist is still on the table. I'm going to roll to see if I can back away. I can, and I'm going to use that to jump back here and give my alchemist a little bit of protection. And with a 2, I'm guessing he's probably going to go this way because, yep, that's fine. He's going to go there because nobody's charged him, or nobody's ready to charge him. My alchemist is going to have a little charge against this mercenary here. He can go 2 to here, and he's going to hop over and get into base contact. So I'm going to roll for my 1 basic weapon attack into the mercenary. And unfortunately it misses, so my opponent is going to get to attack back. Looking for a 4 to hit. Mercenary, so they can re-roll that one. And unfortunately they don't get the hit. So we're going to roll to disengage on a 3 or more for their intelligence. And they do, so they can now disengage 2 inches. Which is going to have to be this way. like 4. With that, I'm actually going to hop back over. Actually, I'm going to move inch along and then hop back over and go and stay here. So with a little bit of careful measuring and positioning, we have actually found that this brawler over here can make a short 1-inch move to just hop into there. And then from there, he can actually make a 2.5-inch move to get to the other side of this window where the mercenary is. So he is going to make that charge. We're going to roll 2 attacks, hitting on 3s in this case. I'm going to roll them into this nice little pit we've created here. Okay, just re-roll that one. Just re-roll that one. That's fine. In that case, yeah, we will count that one. So I've got 1 hit, looking for a 5 or 6 to successfully wound. Try that again. No, so no wounds in this case. My opponent is going to attack back, hitting on a 4. And neither do they. So on a 3+, they're going to disengage. They're rolling very well for the disengagement. In this case, they're going to go there. Yeah, it's about 2 inches. I'm guessing they're facing that way. I'm going to see how far I can move with the brawler. 5. So I'm actually going to use that to hop over here. And I'm just going to go as close as I can without being within an inch of the mercenary. As we can see, after a rather back and forth combat, that is most of the models in the centre of the board wounded, with only a couple remaining unscathed. That is the end of turn 3, and as such we are about to go into turn 4. As we come into the start of turn 4, before rolling for initiative, my opponent has to roll for determination. They have 2 models who are off the field, so if they were to roll a 1, another model would flee. However, because one of those is the Alchemist, they're actually going to roll 2 dice and pick the lowest for whether they pass or succeed. Unfortunately, picking the lowest means that that 1 is the number they have rolled for their determination, meaning that they are now going to go to the board and pick a model who has the most number of wounds suffered and remove them from play. As it currently stands, they have a mercenary, and all the way over here, a Marksperson, who are all equally on 1 wound, so they must pick one of these 3 models. Okay, so my opponent has decided that it's going to be this model here. Quite a lot of interesting words said off camera just then, but this is the model who is gone. So my opponent has decided that they are going to play for the draw, so we will go into the initiative phase now for turn 4. My opponent rolls a 1, I roll a 3, so they will be getting 2 reaction tokens, and I will be going first. So we're in the movement phase, and I was about to move my cultist until my opponent decided to make use of those reactions and shoot me before I even get a chance to move. So, given how close they are going to be hitting me on a 2, regular 3, plus 1 for being that short range. Let's see what they get. Marksperson, so they can re-roll that, thankfully. Okay, so they do hit me. Given I have 1 wound remaining and they're damage 3 to my resistance 3, it is a 50-50 to remove me from the table, and that's me gone. So after a rather effective display from this Marksperson, we can see that he has stayed still. And as we pan across the board, we can see that I attempted to hide my Alchemist out in the middle of my fighters. Unfortunately, I didn't quite have the movement to get them where I needed them. So my opponents capitalized on this and sent 2 of their models charging through my lines. However, as we come back here, I do still have this Marksperson waiting, ready and waiting, and he is going to try and fire on one of these models here and try and capitalize on his shots. So at the start of the shooting phase, my Marksperson here can see through that window into that mercenary. However, as you can see there, the mercenary has reacted and is going to use the 1.5 inches of rough ground movement to get themselves closer to my Alchemist. I can still see them, but they will most definitely be getting hard cover, in which case they are within, yeah, they're within short range. So we will be hitting them on a 5 with that cover. No, nowhere near. He seems to like rolling 3s, I've noticed. With my bit of alchemy, I'm going to have my alchemist here spin around, and he is going to throw a immolator onto this model, which is the number 3. So I'm going to roll a dice over here, and well, we've all got to have our failures sometimes. That just does absolutely nothing. So my opponent has decided that for their only bit of shooting, this Marksperson over here is going to fire at my Alchemist. We have worked out that they are within 12 inches, so there's no penalty there. However, the wall is in the way, so we'll be getting hard cover from that. And also they have already reacted in the move phase, so there's an additional penalty for that. Meaning their 3 to hit would actually go up to being a 6 to hit. Let's see what they can roll. So close, but just not enough. At the start of the combat phase, my original plan was to jump over here and attack from this side, but that would bring me within an inch of my own Alchemist, so I can't do that. Instead, I am going to go 2 inches along this wall, which we've already measured, 3 inches to jump through, and then the remaining ½ inch will get me just into base contact. So I'm going to attack there. I have 2 attacks as the brawler, hitting on 3s. In that case, we have 1 hit, and then I'm going to be needing a 5 or 6 because it's damage 2 against resistance 3. Nope, nothing from there. The Mercenary is going to fight back, 1 attack, hitting on a 4. She hits, and then again, wounding on a 4, 5, or 6. That's a wound on my brawler, so he is going to try and disengage on a 3+. He doesn't, so the Mercenary gets some free attacks into him, or free attack, on a hit. Roll 2 and get a wound. And a wound! Oh, this is not going well for the brawler. I'm going to take that away and pop that in there and try and run away again, which I don't. Okay, so that's a hit. Roll again. Yep, that, no, yep, no, he's gone. Okay, so after that display, my opponent is going to roll and go 4 inches. Okay, after a little pondering and checking of the charges, the Mercenary who was here has popped themselves around to here. This Cultist here is going to go into the Mercenary. He's going to have 1 attack, hitting on a 4 with his bludgeon. He fails, getting a 3. So, retaliation from the Mercenary, it's also a fail. On a 3+, he's going to disengage from combat, and he doesn't. So I'm going to roll again. 1 attack, which hits on a 4. And it does get a wound on a 4, so he has taken a wound. Now he's going to see if he can roll to disengage on a 3+. He can. However, due to where he stood at the moment, there's not really anywhere he can go, but he must still try and make a move as best he can, so he's going to move himself there up against the barrels, because then that keeps him an inch away from everyone else. I'm going to then disengage. I'm going to then roll to see how far I go. An inch, so I'm just going to have to go an inch backwards. For the next charge, we are going to have my Cultist with a basic weapon go into the Mercenary as well. He's going to have 1 attack, hitting on a 4. No, he isn't. So, Mercenary is going to fight back. He doesn't hit either, so on a 3+, he runs away, which he does. Again, he's just really going to kind of have to shuffle to... Let's take that away. He's going to have to shuffle to about here, because that's the best he can do at the moment. Keep his wound with him. And then I'm going to go 3 inches. So I'm actually just going to go here. And that's about the best I can do as well. To finish off my charges, the Alchemist here is going to go after the Mercenary. You can just make it into base contact like so. And then he's going to roll his 1 attack, hitting on a 3. No. Mercenary's going to retaliate, also hitting on a 4 actually in this case. He does hit, we'll accept that. and then rolling to see if he can wound. He doesn't, so on a 3 or more, he is going to disengage. However, given where he is, the best he can do at the moment is go there in the middle of everyone. So my Alchemist is going to try and back away. Well, I say back away, he's just going to go 3 inches. He's actually just going to pop himself up against the wall so he's an inch away, like so. So my opponent has decided that this model here is going to charge into my Alchemist. So he's just going to go straight forward and then roll their 1 attack, hitting on a 4. That's a hit. Now they're going to roll to see if they can wound. Okay, so going to fight back with a 3 to hit, which I get, and then we're looking at a 4 to wound. It's a 5, so that is a wound. We'll just take that one away and replace it with a 2. And then the Mercenary is going to see if they can back away, which they can. So they're just going to pop themselves up against that barrel again and keep an inch away from everyone. And I am going to roll my dice, which gets a 4. I'm actually, in this instance, I'm going to have to stay still. Yep, I'm going to stay still in this case. My opponent has decided that this Mercenary, who by way of this window and wall can still see the Alchemist here, is going to charge, and they can easily go a couple of inches to get round like so. So the Mercenary is going to attack first, hitting on a 4 with their basic weapon. That's a hit. Rolling to see if they can wound. That is not a wound, so I'm going to attack back with my attacks, hitting on a... Nope. So I'm going to roll to see if I can disengage on a 2+, because my intelligence is quite high, and I do. The best I can do at this point is just go and jam into that corner there. So my opponent's going to roll to see how far they move, which is 5. I'm guessing they're probably only going to move back a little bit to sort of keep me boxed in. Yeah, keeping an inch away from everyone. Yep, that is absolutely fine. We come to the start of turn 5, and again, my opponent has to roll for determination. They have 1, 2, 3 models off the board, and again, one of them is their Alchemist, so they'll be rolling 2 dice and picking the lowest. Okay, in this case, they have managed to roll perfectly well, even with that 3. It's 3 models, so they are fine. In my case, I also have to roll for determination. I have 2 models off, but as I don't have my Alchemist removed from play, I'll be rolling 1 dice. Well, time to go have a look at the board and see who I want to remove. After checking, it appears that the only model I can remove is this cultist here. The reason being is that him and the Alchemist are both on a wound. However, the Alchemist cannot be chosen as part of a failed determination roll. So, goodbye, cultist. Initiative roll for turn 5. 1, 5. So, my opponent will be getting 1, 2 reactions, and I'll be going first. Seeing as it's my opponent who has the reactions this phase and not me, I've decided my Alchemist and my unwounded cultist are going to stay completely still so as not to let my opponent make the most of those reactions. However, my opponent has also decided with these 2 models to do exactly the same, because there's not really anywhere they can go without extending the combat range or the potentially not being able to charge. However, they did decide to bring the Marksperson up here so he could get an easier shot, most likely at this guy or at the Alchemist. Once again, my Marksperson hiding at the back here has decided to stay still. If he moved, the penalty would be so great that he would probably not actually be able to hit anything this turn. Okay, so with my last little bit of alchemy, we're going to use this number 1 and place it within 12 inches. So I'm going to put it all the way over here so that hopefully only this guy here gets caught in the backblast. I'm going to roll to see if it goes off. It's the Molotov cocktail, so it'll be on a 2+. Yep, it goes off. And I'll do a quick double check. The only model in range is this one, so it'll be wounding on a 5 or 6. No, so nothing happened. So my marksman over here is a way to declare this model as his target. He's not going to react because again, takes him further away from potential combat range. He is within short range, but he is protected by hard cover from this wall here, from this frost wall in fact. So it is going to be a -2 to hit, making it a 5. No, but Marksperson, so we're going to re-roll that. Ooh, it is a 5. Currently looking at damage 4 against resistance 3. So on a 3 or more, it causes the final wound to get rid of him. No, just when you need him to do it, he gets a 2. For my opponent's half of the shooting phase, this model here is going to go after my Alchemist. He is not within short range, but he does have a clear line of sight. So it will be a 3, -1 for moving, so it'll be on a 4. Ooh, just not enough. In the combat phase, my Cultist with basic weapon is going to charge into this guy here, and he's going to get his 1 attack. No, that's not enough, so my opponent's going to attack back, hitting on a 4. That's a hit, rolling to wound. Ooh, that's a critical wound. So, that is 2 wounds to me, and I'm going to have to try and run away. I do, so I'm going to back myself to the other side of my token and go that way. My opponent decided not to actually move the mercenary, given he was already in such a good position, so my Alchemist is going to run around like so and charge him instead. So we have 1 attack with a basic weapon, hitting on a 3. Well, he tried. My opponent is going to attack back, hitting on a 4, which they do, rolling to wound with a 5, so that is definitely a wound on my Alchemist, who is going to try and run away, which he does. At best, he is going to just plonk himself back where he was with his 2 wounds. And my opponent is going to... No, actually, my opponent has indicated to me that they're not going to bother rolling to move because they're not going to move at all, given where they are. My opponent has decided first charge on their side is going to be this mercenary into my Alchemist. That means they get 1 attack, hitting on a 4, which hits. If they get that again... Oh, no. So I'm going to try and attack back, hitting on a 3. Okay, wounding on a 4, 5, or 6. No, so I'm going to try and run away as well. And I do. Unfortunately, given where I'm stood, and I can't go within an inch of a model, the best I can really do is just push myself further into that wall. But my opponent rolls a 3 and is going to go back and block me from getting away. For the final combat, as my opponent cannot make base contact with the Alchemist by going past this Cultist, he is just going to charge into the Cultist instead, which is more than enough, so in he goes. The Marksperson has 1 attack, which will be hitting on a 4 with a dagger, which hits, looking for a 5 or 6 to cause that last wound, damage 2 against resistance 3, and it's enough. There goes my Cultist. Okay, so we are at the end of turn 5, and as you can see here, all I have left is a 1 wound Alchemist. My opponent has some rather wounded fighters as well, and then all the way here at the back we have the Marksperson, still alive, still untouched, still with that crossbow. My opponent as well still has both their reaction tokens. There was no real opportunity in this turn for them to actually use those tokens to their benefit. So we are at the start of turn 6, which is the final turn. As you can see here again, my opponent has lost 3 models, one of which is their Alchemist. So they're going to roll 2 dice and pick the lowest. Once again, they get a 4 and a 3, so they are absolutely fine this turn. In the case of my determination roll, I have 4 models off the table, but none of them are on my Alchemist. So I'll roll 1 dice. And I roll a 2. That's not... No. As the only non-Alchemist model I have left on the table, it is going to be my poor Marksperson that survived the entire game. He has fled. The last initiative phase of this game, I get a 5, my opponent gets a 1, and I can guess right away where one of those reaction tokens is going. Here we are at the end of the movement phase. I have decided not to move. My opponent has the reaction tokens, so if I do decide to, I know I'm just going to get shot straight away. My opponent has also decided not to move for the same reasons as last turn. They've boxed me in quite successfully, and there's not really anywhere I can go in this particular example. This is going to be a summary shooting phase because my Alchemist has no concoctions left, and my only shooting model was removed from play. So my opponent is going to have their Marksperson, who is at very short range, fire a shot into the Alchemist. It is going to be a 2 to hit. That's definitely a hit. So in this case, it's damage 3, resistance 3. I have 1 wound remaining, so on a 50-50, I'm taken out of play. And I survive, but not for long. Like the shooting phase, this combat phase is also going to be a summary because my Alchemist is not actually going to charge anyone simply for fear of making more combats for himself. So my opponent is instead deciding to have their Mercenary with the lamp over here charge in first, which they do, and they have 1 attack, rolling to hit on a 4. Mercenary, so they can re-roll that. Oh well. And I'm going to attack back, 1 attack hitting on a 3, and then wounding on a 4, 5 or 6. No, so I'm going to see if I can run away, which I don't, so my opponent gets an extra round of attacks. So 1 hitting on a 6, and then looking for... That's enough. Bye, Alchemist. That's it. That is the end of the battle report. As you can see here, we have collected up the only remaining models, which is a rather wounded mercenary, a somewhat wounded mercenary, and a somewhat wounded marksperson. Both players lost their alchemists. However, as my side, Cleansers of the World, was completely tabled, it is a win to my opponent. That's it for this battle report. Thank you very much for watching. If you would like a copy of the rulebook or to support us, please head over to Patreon and have a look at the 3 tiers that we have available there. That is it from myself, my opponent behind the camera, and we will see you next time.